The misconception. The grand chambers of the Galactic Council buzzed with an air of superiority and poorly concealed disdain. Representatives from 100 different species gathered in the vast, domed hall, their forms as varied as the stars themselves. Some floated on anti-gravity platforms, others slithered across the polished floor, while yet more perched on specially designed seats to accommodate their unique physiologies. At the center of it all stood High Counselor Zixtara, her iridescent scales shimmering under the soft blue light of the chamber. Her 4 arms were crossed over her chest, all 6 eyes narrowed as she addressed the assembly. "Esteemed colleagues," she began, her voice resonating through the chamber, "we find ourselves at a crossroads. The swarm advances, consuming world after world, and our united forces struggle to hold the line." A ripple of unease passed through the gathered representatives. The swarm, a hive-mind species of insectoid creatures, had emerged from the depths of uncharted space nearly a decade ago. Since then, they had carved a path of destruction across the galaxy, their hunger for resources insatiable. "We have exhausted nearly every option," Zixtara continued, her tone grim. "Our fleets are stretched thin, our greatest weapons prove ineffective against their adaptive biology. And yet," she paused, her upper right hand gesturing to a holographic display that sprang to life in the center of the chamber. The image showed a blue and green world, spiraling clouds obscuring portions of its surface. Earth. "And yet, there remains one potential ally we have not called upon," Zixtara said, her voice dripping with reluctance. Ambassador Krell of the Volari Confederation, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline structure, pulsed with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. "Surely you don't mean the humans. They've shown no interest in galactic affairs for centuries." "Precisely," Zixtara nodded. "They have hidden behind their treaties and trade agreements, content to remain isolated in their small corner of the galaxy." General Thorak, a hulking reptilian from the warrior coast of Tersha, let out a rumbling laugh. "The humans, they're nothing but cowards. They haven't fought a real war in over 1,000 years. What good could they possibly do against the swarm?" His sentiment was echoed by murmurs of agreement throughout the chamber. Humans had long been a subject of ridicule among the galactic community. Their refusal to engage in military conflicts, their focus on diplomacy and scientific pursuits, all of it was seen as a sign of weakness by many of the more militant species. Zixtara held up a hand for silence. "I understand your reservations. I share them. But we cannot deny that the humans possess resources and technology that could prove valuable in our fight." She manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on various regions of Earth. Their world remains largely untouched by the ravages of war. Their orbital habitats and lunar colonies continue to expand, and their scientific advancements. She trailed off, bringing up images of sleek vessels and strange devices. Well, suffice it to say, they've not been idle in their isolation. Ambassador Elara of the Selene Concordat, her luminous form rippling with patterns of light, spoke up. "But High Counselor, even if the humans possess advanced technology, what makes you think they would be willing to join our fight? They've rebuffed every attempt at military alliance for centuries." Zixtara's expression hardened. They may not have a choice. The swarm's path of destruction brings them ever closer to human space. If Earth falls, it would give the swarm a foothold in a resource-rich region of the galaxy. We cannot allow that to happen. General Thorak snorted, a puff of steam escaping his nostrils. "So we're to beg these cowards for help. I'd rather face the swarm with blade and claw than rely on humans." "Nobody's begging," Zixtara snapped, her patience wearing thin. "We will present them with the facts. The threat the swarm poses, not just to us, but to them as well. And if they refuse," her voice lowered, taking on a dangerous edge, "well, perhaps it's time we reminded them that isolation is a privilege, not a right." A tense silence fell over the chamber. What the High Counselor was suggesting bordered on blackmail, a clear violation of the treaties that had kept the peace between Earth and the rest of the galactic community for centuries. Ambassador Krell pulsed with concern. "High Counselor, are you suggesting we coerce the humans into joining our war effort? That would be a dangerous precedent." Zixtara's eyes flickered with a mix of determination and resignation. "These are dangerous times, Ambassador. We must use every tool at our disposal if we are to survive." She turned back to the holographic display, enlarging an image of a human city, gleaming spires reaching towards the sky, verdant parks, and bustling streets filled with beings going about their daily lives, blissfully unaware of the galactic conflict raging light years away. "Look at them," Zixtara said, her voice soft but carrying throughout the silent chamber. "Living in their bubble of peace and prosperity, while the rest of us bleed to keep the swarm at bay. It's time they shared the burden." General Thorak leaned forward, his interest finally piqued. "And if they refuse? What then, High Counselor?" Zixtara's expression turned grim. "Then we take what we need. Their ships, their weapons, their resources. All of it could turn the tide against the swarm. If the humans won't use them to defend the galaxy, then we will." A murmur of approval rippled through the chamber. Many of the representatives had long resented humanity's perceived cowardice and isolationism. The thought of finally forcing them into action, or simply taking their advanced technology for themselves, was appealing. Ambassador Elara's form flickered with distress. "This is madness. We cannot simply strong-arm a sovereign species into war. What of our principles, our laws?" "Laws," General Thorak scoffed. "Laws mean nothing if we're all dead or enslaved by the swarm. I say we give the humans an ultimatum: join us or suffer the consequences." The chamber erupted into heated debate. Some sided with Thorak, eager to finally put humanity in its place. Others, like Elara, argued for caution and diplomacy. But underlying it all was a current of fear of the advancing swarm, fear of their own extinction. Zixtara let the arguments rage for a few moments before raising all four of her arms for silence. The chamber gradually fell quiet, all eyes turning back to the High Counselor. "We will send an envoy to Earth," she declared, her tone brooking no argument. "They will present our case to the human leadership, make them understand the gravity of the situation. And yes," she added, her gaze sweeping the room, "they will make it clear that refusal is not an option." She manipulated the holographic display one last time, bringing up an image of the Milky Way galaxy. A large swath of it was highlighted in angry red, territory already consumed by the swarm. Another section pulsed an ominous yellow, worlds under imminent threat. "We stand on the brink of annihilation," Zixtara said, her voice heavy with the weight of her words. "If adding humanity to our ranks gives us even the slightest chance of victory, then I will gladly bear the moral cost." The chamber was silent for a long moment as the representatives absorbed the High Counselor's words. Then, slowly, heads began to nod. Tentacles waved in agreement. Energy beings pulsed their assent. "Very well," Zixtara said, a hint of relief in her voice. "Let it be recorded that the Galactic Council has voted to extend an invitation to humanity to join our war effort against the swarm. May the stars have mercy on us all if they refuse." As the session adjourned and the representatives filed out of the chamber, none of them could shake the feeling that they had just set in motion events that would change the course of galactic history. They had based their decision on centuries of assumptions about humanity's nature, assumptions that were about to be shattered in ways none of them could have imagined. For even as the Council's envoy prepared to depart for Earth, humanity was stirring. Deep beneath the surface of their seemingly peaceful world, in hidden bunkers and classified facilities, the sleeping giant was beginning to awake. The humans had never forgotten how to wage war. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to reveal their true strength. The galaxy thought it was forcing humanity's hand. In reality, it was playing right into a plan centuries in the making. The misconception that humans feared war was about to be exposed for the carefully crafted illusion it had always been. And the swarm, They were about to learn why the oldest and wisest species in the galaxy had always given Earth a wide berth. For when humanity went to war, they did so with a fervor and ingenuity that would reshape the very fabric of the cosmos. The stage was set, the players were moving into position, and at the center of it all, a species long dismissed as cowards prepared to show the galaxy why Homo sapiens had survived and thrived against all odds. The war for the galaxy's survival was about to begin, and humanity was ready, the ultimatum. The sleek diplomatic vessel Celestial Envoy dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, its hull gleaming under the distant light of Sol. On board, Ambassador Lorvana of the Andromeda Collective fidgeted nervously, her tentacles twisting around each other as she prepared for the most crucial mission of her career. "We're being hailed by Earth Defense Command, Ambassador," the ship's captain, a stoic Regalian named Zax, announced. "They're requesting our authorization codes and purpose of visit." Lorvana took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Transmit the codes provided by the Council. Inform them we carry an urgent message from the Galactic Council for Earth's leadership." As they waited for a response, Lorvana couldn't help but marvel at the sight before her. Earth's orbital defenses were far more extensive than their intelligence had suggested. Sleek satellites and camouflaged platforms hung in a complex web around the planet, while patrols of small, agile ships darted between them with practiced precision. "This doesn't look like the defense network of a species afraid of war," Zax muttered, echoing Lorvana's thoughts. Before she could respond, a crisp, professional voice came through the ship's speakers. "Celestial Envoy, you are cleared for approach. Please follow the designated flight path to New Geneva Space Elevator. Deviation will be considered hostile action." As they began their descent, following a corridor of energy markers, Lorvana studied the planet below. Earth was a vibrant jewel of blue and green, white clouds swirling across its surface. But here and there, she caught glimpses of sprawling cities, their architecture a blend of natural forms and advanced technology, unlike anything she'd seen in her travels across the galaxy. The New Geneva Space Elevator came into view, a marvel of engineering that stretched from the planet's surface up into low orbit. As they docked at the orbital station, Lorvana couldn't shake the feeling that they had gravely underestimated humanity. A delegation was waiting for them as they disembarked. At its head stood a tall, dark-skinned human woman with close-cropped silver hair and piercing brown eyes. She wore a crisp uniform adorned with various insignias that Lorvana didn't recognize. "Ambassador Lorvana," the woman greeted her, her voice carrying a note of authority that made the Andromedan's tentacles quiver. "I am Admiral Helena Feng, Earth Defense Force. Welcome to New Geneva." Lorvana bowed slightly, following the protocols she'd studied. "Thank you for receiving us on such short notice, Admiral. I bring urgent news from the Galactic Council." Admiral Feng's expression remained neutral, but there was a glint in her eyes that suggested she already knew more than she let on. "Of course, if you'll follow me, we've prepared a secure conference room for our discussion." As they made their way through the station, Lorvana couldn't help but notice the efficiency and preparedness of the human personnel. They moved with a purpose and discipline that spoke of extensive training. This was not the behavior of a species that had forgotten the ways of war. The conference room was a marvel of human design, with holographic displays lining the walls and a large table that seemed to be made of some sort of programmable matter. As they took their seats, Admiral Feng gestured, and a privacy field shimmered into existence around them. "Now then, Ambassador," Feng said, leaning forward slightly. "What is so urgent that the Galactic Council sends an envoy unannounced to a world they've largely ignored for centuries?" Lorvana steeled herself. This was the moment of truth. "Admiral, I'm sure you're aware of the threat posed by the entity we call the Swarm. They've consumed nearly a third of the galaxy, and our combined forces are struggling to hold them back." Feng nodded, her expression grave. "We've been monitoring the situation closely. The Swarm's rate of expansion is concerning. Lorvana's tentacles writhed in agitation. "It's catastrophic. Dozens of species have been wiped out, entire civilizations erased. And now, she paused, activating a holographic display of the galaxy. A large portion of it was highlighted in angry red, with tendrils stretching outwards. One of those tendrils was creeping ever closer to a small section of space marked in blue human territory. Now they're approaching your borders, Lorvana finished. The Galactic Council believes it's time for humanity to join the fight. Your technology, your resources, they could turn the tide against a swarm. Admiral Feng leaned back in her chair, her eyes never leaving the galactic map. I see. And if we refuse? Lorvana's heart sank. This was the part she had been dreading. Admiral, I must be frank. The Council is desperate. If humanity won't willingly join the war effort, they are prepared to take more drastic measures. Feng's eyes snapped to Lorvana, a dangerous glint in them. Are you threatening us, Ambassador? Not I, Lorvana said quickly. But yes, the Council has authorized me to inform you that if Earth does not cooperate, they will consider alternative means of acquiring your technology and resources. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Admiral Feng's expression hardened, her voice taking on an edge that made Lorvana's skin prickle. Let me be very clear, Ambassador. Any attempt to coerce Earth or violate our sovereignty will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. We are not the helpless pacifists the galaxy seems to think we are. Lorvana's tentacles drooped. This was going even worse than she had feared. Please, Admiral, you must understand the desperation that drives the Council's actions. The swarm. We understand the threat posed by the swarm better than you might think, Feng interrupted. She made a gesture, and suddenly the holographic display changed. It now showed detailed tactical analyses of swarm movements, biological breakdowns of their various castes, and simulations of their attack patterns. The level of information was staggering, far beyond what the Council possessed. How? Lorvana gasped. How do you have this data? Admiral Feng's lips curved into a small, grim smile. We've had covert teams studying the swarm for years. Did you really think we were oblivious to the galaxy's plight? That we sat idly by while worlds burned? She stood, pacing around the table. Humanity has not been idle, Ambassador. We've been preparing, watching, learning. The peace we've maintained was not born of cowardice, but of strategy. We knew a day like this would come. Lorvana's mind reeled. Everything she thought she knew about humanity was being turned on its head. Then, will you join us? Will Earth stand with the galaxy against a swarm? Admiral Feng stopped pacing, fixing Lorvana with an intense gaze. That decision is not mine to make alone. But know this, if we choose to fight, it will be on our terms. Not as subordinates to the Galactic Council, but as equal partners in the defense of all sentient life. She leaned forward, her voice low and intense. And you can tell the Council this. Any action against Earth will be considered an act of war. We've tolerated their condescension and dismissal for centuries. We will not tolerate threats. Lorvana swallowed hard, realizing the magnitude of the misconception that had led them to this point. I understand, Admiral. I will convey your message to the Council. But please, what should I tell them about Earth's intentions? Will you join the fight? Admiral Feng was quiet for a long moment, her eyes distant as if seeing something far beyond the confines of the conference room. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of centuries. Tell them this, Ambassador. Humanity does not fear war. We have simply chosen peace for so long that the galaxy has forgotten what we are capable of. But if war is thrust upon us, if the survival of not just our species but all sentient life is at stake, then the galaxy will remember White Earth was once the most feared world in the cosmos. She turned back to the holographic display, expanding it to show the full scope of the swarm's advance. We will consider the Council's request, but make no mistake, if we enter this war, we do so not as the Galactic Council's pawn, but as the vanguard of a force the swarm cannot begin to comprehend. As Lorvana left the conference room, her head spinning with the implications of what she had learned, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just witnessed the opening moves of a game far larger and more complex than she could have imagined. The Galactic Council had sought to force humanity's hand, but in doing so, they may have unleashed a power beyond their control. The ultimatum had been delivered, but it was not the ultimatum the Council had intended. Instead, it was humanity that now held the fate of the galaxy in its hands. And as Lorvana's ship departed Earth's orbit, she wondered if the Council was prepared for the response they were about to receive. The sleeping giant was awake, and the swarm, the Galactic Council, and the entire cosmos were about to learn why humanity had been both feared and revered in the ancient histories of 1,000 worlds. The war for the galaxy's survival was no longer approaching. It had begun. Unexpected response. The Galactic Council chamber was in an uproar. Representatives from 100 species shouted over each other, their voices a cacophony of different languages and tones. At the center of it all, High Counselor Zixtara stood motionless, her scaled skin shifting colors rapidly, a sign of intense stress in her species. Silence. She finally roared, her voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. The din gradually subsided, all eyes turning to the High Counselor. Ambassador Lorvana, Zixtara said, her voice tightly controlled. Please repeat your report for those who may have missed it the first time. Lorvana stepped forward, her tentacles still quivering from the memory of her encounter on Earth. High Counselor, esteemed representatives, I regret to inform you that our assumptions about humanity were gravely mistaken. She activated a holographic display showing the detailed swarm analysis she had seen on Earth. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the chamber. The humans have been far from idle, Lorvana continued. They've been studying the swarm in secret for years, gathering intelligence that far surpasses our own, and their military capabilities. She paused, searching for the right words. They are not the pacifists we believe them to be. General Thorak leaned forward, his reptilian eyes narrowing. Are you saying they refused our demand? That they won't join the fight? Lorvana's tentacles twisted nervously. Not exactly, General. They are considering our request. But they made it clear that if they join the war, it will be on their terms, as equals, not subordinates. The chamber erupted again, voices raised in anger and disbelief. Zixtara raised all 4 of her arms for silence once more. And what of our leverage? The High Counselor asked, her voice low. Did you convey the consequences of refusal? Lorvana's skin paled slightly. I did, High Counselor. Their response was unequivocal. Any action against Earth will be considered an act of war, and based on what I saw of their defenses, it would be a war we are ill-prepared to fight. Before anyone could respond, a sharp tone cut through the chamber. All eyes turned to the central communication hub, where an urgent message was flashing. Zixtara frowned, activating the message. A holographic image flickered to life in the center of the chamber, a human figure, dressed in an elegant suit that seemed to shimmer with subtle, ever-changing patterns. Greetings, High Counselor Zixtara and esteemed members of the Galactic Council, the figure said, its voice calm and measured. I am Dr. Ellen Tarek, Special Envoy of the United Earth Government. We received your message, and we have an answer for you. The chamber fell into a stunned silence. This was unprecedented. No species had ever directly addressed a full council without invitation. Dr. Tarek continued, seemingly unfazed by the tension. Humanity has long watched the stars, observed the conflicts that have shaped this galaxy. We have chosen peace, yes, but not out of fear or weakness. We have prepared, we have advanced, and now, faced with a threat that endangers all sentient life, we are ready to stand with you. A ripple of surprised murmurs spread through the chamber. This was not the response any of them had expected. However, Tarek's voice took on a harder edge. We do so under our own terms. We will not be subordinate to the Galactic Council. We will not simply hand over our technology or resources. We propose a new alliance, equal partners united against the swarm. Zixtara stepped forward, her eyes narrowed. And if we refuse these terms, Dr. Tariq, if we insist on humanity's compliance with council authority? Tariq's holographic face remained impassive, but there was steel in his voice when he replied. Then, High Counselor, you will face this threat alone. And should you choose to act against Earth, as your ambassador so clumsily implied you might. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. Well, let's just say the swarm might become the least of your concerns. The chamber erupted into chaos once more, but Tariq raised a hand, silencing them with a gesture that carried unexpected authority. But that is not the path we wish to take, he continued, his tone softening slightly. We stand at a crossroads, all of us. The swarm threatens not just individual worlds or species, but the very concept of diversity in our galaxy. This is a threat that requires unity, innovation, and courage on a scale unprecedented in galactic history. Tariq's image expanded, now showing a vast starfield behind him. Slowly, points of light began to appear, spreading across the galaxy. What you see before you, Tariq explained, is the current deployment of Earth's deep space monitoring network. For centuries, we have watched, we have learned, and yes, we have prepared. We know the swarm's movements, their strategies, their weaknesses. We have developed technologies specifically designed to combat their threat. The display zoomed in, showing schematics of sleek ships and weapons, unlike anything the Council had seen before. This, Tariq said, his voice filled with quiet pride, is the Terran fleet. Ships capable of matching the swarm's adaptive biology with our own adaptive technology. Weapons designed to disrupt their hive mind. Defenses that can withstand their most potent attacks. He turned back to face the Council directly. We offer this not as tribute or submission, but as a partnership. Earth will join your fight against the swarm, but as equals. We will share our technology, our strategies, our soldiers, but we will do so under a new banner. Not the Galactic Council, but a united galaxy alliance. The chamber was silent, every being present trying to process the magnitude of what they were hearing. Humanity, long dismissed as irrelevant, was now offering salvation, but at the cost of the Council's unchallenged authority. Zixtara stepped forward, her voice carefully neutral. This is unexpected, Dr. Tariq. The Council will need time to discuss your proposal. Tariq nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Of course, High Counselor, but do not take too long. The swarm advances as we speak. You have 48 Earth hours to provide your answer. If you choose to stand with us, we will immediately begin coordinating our efforts. If not, he let the words hang in the air, the implied threat clear to all. The choice is yours, Tariq concluded. Unite, adapt, and fight together, or face extinction alone. We await your response. With that, the hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving the Council chamber in stunned silence. For a long moment, no one spoke. The representatives looked at each other, then at Zixtara, uncertainty and fear plain on their faces. The High Counselor herself seemed lost in thought, her scales cycling through a range of colors. Finally, Ambassador Krell of the Volari Confederation broke the silence. High Counselor, the crystalline being pulsed, what do we do? Zixtara looked around the chamber, taking in the faces of the beings who had placed their trust in her leadership. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but firm. We have misjudged humanity, she said. We sought to force their hand, to bend them to our will. Instead, they have offered us a lifeline, albeit one that will forever change the structure of galactic politics. She turned to face the spot where Tariq's hologram had stood. But change, it seems, is inevitable. The question now is whether we will be the architects of that change or its victims. Zixtara straightened, her decision made. Prepare for an emergency session. We have much to discuss and little time. The future of our galaxy hangs in the balance, and humanity, for better or worse, holds the key. As the representatives filed out, a mix of excitement and trepidation filled the air. The Galactic Council had sought to awaken a sleeping giant. Now, faced with humanity's unexpected response, they realized that giant might just be their salvation or their downfall. The clock was ticking. In 48 hours, the course of galactic history would be decided, and somewhere out in the dark between the stars, the swarm continued its relentless advance, unaware that its greatest challenge was about to emerge from a world it had barely noticed. The stage was set for a conflict that would reshape the cosmos. Humanity had made its move. Now it was the galaxy's turn to respond. First contact. The massive hangar bay of the Galactic Council's Central Space Station bustled with activity. Representatives from dozens of species hurried about, their conversations a mix of excitement and apprehension. At the center of it all stood an eclectic group, the newly formed Welcoming Committee for Humanity's Arrival. High Counselor Zixtara stood at the forefront, her scales shimmering with a mix of blue, anxiety, and gold hope. Beside her, General Thorak's massive form towered over the others, his reptilian features set in a scowl of barely concealed skepticism. Ambassador Krell's crystalline body pulsed with rapid patterns of light, a sign of intense curiosity in the Volari. Ambassador Elara of the Selene Concordat hovered nearby, her luminous form casting a soft glow over the assembled group. "Are we certain about this?" Thorak grumbled, his clawed hands flexing nervously. "Ceding so much authority to a species we barely know." Zixtara's upper eyes blinked in irritation. "We've been over this, General." The vote was clear. Faced with extinction at the hands of the swarm, the Council has agreed to humanity's terms. We need them more than they need us. Before Thorak could retort, a klaxon sounded. A voice boomed over the station's communications system. "Attention all personnel. Human vessel approaching. Prepare for docking procedures." The assembled beings turned as one towards the hangar's massive energy field. Beyond it, stars glittered in the void of space. For a moment, nothing changed. Then, with a flash of light that caused many to shield their eyes, a ship appeared. It was like nothing they had ever seen. Sleek and elegant, yet bristling with barely concealed power, the human vessel seemed to defy the very laws of physics. Its hull shimmered with an iridescent material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. As it glided towards the hangar, those watching could see no visible propulsion system. By the cosmic eggs, Thorak breathed, his earlier skepticism forgotten in the face of such advanced technology. What manner of propulsion is that? Ambassador Krell pulsed rapidly. "I'm detecting no standard energy emissions. It's as if the ship is moving through folds in spacetime itself." The ship, easily dwarfing the largest council vessels, eased into the hangar with impossible grace. As it settled into place, a hush fell over the gathered crowd. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss, a seam appeared in the seamless hull. A ramp extended, touching down on the hangar floor with a gentle thud. Light spilled from the opening, and a figure emerged. Dr. Ellen Tarek, the holographic envoy they had seen before, strode down the ramp. He was followed by a diverse group of humans, men and women of various ethnicities, all dressed in the same shimmering suits that seemed to ripple with patterns just at the edge of perception. Tarek approached the welcoming committee, a smile on his face. "High Counselor Zixtara," he said, bowing slightly. "On behalf of the United Earth Government, I thank you for your hospitality. We look forward to beginning this new chapter in galactic history." Zixtara stepped forward, performing the traditional greeting of her people, a complex gesture involving all four of her arms. "Dr. Tarek, esteemed representatives of Earth, welcome to Nexus Station. We are honored by your presence." As the formalities were exchanged, the other council members couldn't help but stare at the human ship. Its very presence seemed to warp the space around it, as if reality itself was bending to accommodate its existence. One of the humans, a tall, dark-skinned woman with close-cropped silver hair, noticed their fascination. She stepped forward, introducing herself. Admiral Helena Feng, Earth Defense Force. I see our Mobius drive has caught your attention. General Thorak's head snapped around. Mobius drive? Is that how you achieved such silent, efficient propulsion? Admiral Feng smiled, but there was a hint of steel behind her eyes. One of our more recent innovations. By folding space-time around the ship, we can traverse vast distances with minimal energy expenditure. Of course, the full details are classified. Before Thorak could press further, Dr. Tarek interjected smoothly. I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to discuss technology exchange as our alliance develops. For now, perhaps we could move to somewhere more comfortable. We have much to discuss regarding our joint strategy against the swarm. Zixtara nodded, gesturing towards the exit. Of course, we've prepared the grand strategy room for our meeting. If you'll follow me. As the group made their way through the station's winding corridors, they drew curious stares from beings of all species. Humans had been a rarity in galactic society for centuries, and now here they were, walking among them as equals, or perhaps even superiors. The Grand Strategy Room lived up to its name, a vast, circular chamber dominated by a holographic display of the entire Milky Way galaxy. As they entered, the display flickered to life, showing the current known positions of swarm fleets in angry red. Dr. Tarek stepped up to the display, his eyes scanning the tactical information. Without a word, he pulled a small device from his pocket and held it up. The hologram shimmered, and suddenly the red areas expanded dramatically. New information flooded the display: swarm movements, fleet compositions, even predictions of future targets. The council members gasped. Ambassador Elara's luminous form flickered rapidly. This is impossible. How did you gather this intelligence? Another human stepped forward, a wiry man with sharp features and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Colonel Yuki Tanaka, Earth Intelligence Division, he introduced himself. We've had deep cover operatives and autonomous stealth drones monitoring swarm activity for decades. This is a real-time feed of their movements. General Thorak's jaw dropped. Decades. But how? Why? Dr. Tarek turned to face the assembled group, his expression grave. Because, General, we've known this day would come. Humanity's isolation was never about fear or cowardice. It was about preparation. He gestured to the holographic display. We've spent centuries advancing our technology, training our people, and gathering intelligence. We knew that one day, a threat would emerge that would require us to rejoin galactic society. The swarm is that threat. Zixtara stepped forward, her scales now a solid gold of determination. Then let us waste no more time. Dr. Tarek, what do you propose? Tarek nodded to Admiral Feng, who took center stage. She manipulated the holographic controls with practiced ease, zooming in on a specific sector. This is the Orion Spur, a region of space that the swarm has yet to fully penetrate. We propose making our stand here, using the natural choke points of the sector to our advantage. As Admiral Feng laid out the strategy, the council members listened with rapt attention. The plan was bold, innovative, and unlike anything they had considered before. It involved not just military might, but also technological adaptation, psychological warfare against the swarm's hive mind, and even the manipulation of entire star systems to create natural barriers. Hours passed as they delved into the details. Questions were asked and answered, concerns raised and addressed. Through it all, the humans displayed a level of knowledge and preparedness that left the council members both awed and slightly unnerved. As the meeting drew to a close, Zixtara found herself standing next to Dr. Tarek, both of them gazing at the galactic display. You've given us hope, Dr. Tarek, she said quietly. But I can't help but wonder what happens after. If we defeat the swarm, where does that leave the balance of power in the galaxy? Tarek was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft, but filled with conviction. The galaxy will change, High Counselor. It must. But the future we envision is not one of human dominance. We seek a true partnership, a united galaxy where all species can thrive. He turned to face her, his eyes intense. The swarm is not the only threat out there. There are darker things lurking between the stars, challenges that will require all of us working together to overcome. This war, it's just the beginning. Zixtara felt a shiver run down her spine. She realized that in accepting humanity's help, they had set in motion events that would reshape the very fabric of galactic society. For better or worse, nothing would ever be the same. As the human delegation prepared to return to their ship, promises of further meetings and joint training exercises were exchanged. The first steps towards a true united galaxy alliance had been taken. And somewhere out in the darkness of space, the swarm continued its relentless advance, unaware that its greatest challenge was now assembling. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and the rules of the game had changed forever. The war for the galaxy's future was about to begin in earnest, and at its heart stood a species long dismissed as irrelevant, now poised to become the salvation, or perhaps the new masters, of all sentient life. The die was cast, the pieces were in motion, and the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what humanity would do next. Battle of Nexus Prime. The vast expanse of space surrounding Nexus Prime, once a peaceful hub of galactic commerce, now bristled with the combined might of the newly formed United Galaxy Alliance. Ships of all shapes and sizes hung in formation, a testament to the diverse species now united against a common foe. At the heart of this armada floated the imposing form of the UES Prometheus, humanity's flagship and the mobile command center for the coming battle. On the Prometheus's bridge, Admiral Helena Feng stood before a holographic display of the sector, her face illuminated by the swirling patterns of stars and tactical overlays. Around her, a mix of human officers and alien representatives worked in seamless coordination, the product of months of joint training and preparation. Status report. Feng commanded, her voice calm but tinged with the tension of impending conflict. A young human lieutenant, his fingers dancing over a holographic interface, responded promptly. All ships report ready, Admiral. The Mobius drive network is fully operational, allowing for instantaneous redeployment as needed. Quantum entanglement communications are online and stable. High Counselor Zixtara, present as the official representative of the Galactic Council, stepped forward. Her scales shimmered with a mix of anticipation and concern. Admiral, are you certain this is the right course of action? Engaging the swarm in open battle, Feng turned to face the alien leader, her expression resolute. High Counselor, we've been over this. Our intelligence is solid. The swarm is committing a massive force to this sector, intent on breaking through to the core worlds. If we don't stop them here, at Nexus Prime, we may not get another chance. Before Zixtara could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. The holographic display erupted with new data points, a wave of red indicators flooding the sector. Swarm vessels detected, the tactical officer, a Rigelian named Zax, announced. Multiple exit points from FTL. There are the Cosmic Core, there are thousands of them. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as officers relayed orders and coordinated with the rest of the fleet. Admiral Feng's voice cut through the din, steady and commanding. This is it, people. Battle stations. Initiate Operation Firewall. Across the fleet, ships began to move with practiced precision. The smaller, more agile vessels of the Andromeda Collective and the Selene Concordat formed the first line of defense, their advanced shielding technology creating a barrier against the swarm's biocorrosive weapons. Behind them, the heavier battleships of Earth and the Tersha took up positions, their massive energy weapons charging. As the first wave of swarm ships entered weapons range, Admiral Feng gave a slight nod. Commence Phase 1. Instantly, hundreds of small, autonomous drones launched from the Allied ships. These were humanity's latest innovation, quantum-entangled swarm disruptors. As they approached the enemy vessels, they began broadcasting on frequencies specifically tailored to interfere with the swarm's hive mind. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Swarm ships began to falter, their coordinated movements becoming erratic. Some collided with each other, while others simply drifted off course. "It's working," Zixtara exclaimed, her scales flushing with excitement. "Their formations are breaking apart." Admiral Feng allowed herself a small smile. "Don't celebrate yet, Counselor. This is just the beginning. All ships, commence Phase 2. Fire at will." The space around Nexus Prime erupted in a dazzling display of destructive power. Energy beams lanced out from the Allied battleships, cutting through the disoriented swarm vessels. Missiles carrying payloads of adaptive nanites sought out the largest bioships, burrowing into their hulls before releasing their cargo to wreak havoc from within. But the swarm was not so easily defeated. As the battle raged on, the hive mind began to adapt. New formations emerged, less reliant on centralized control. The quantum disruptors found their effectiveness waning as the swarm ships developed countermeasures on the fly. "Admiral," Zax reported, his voice tense, "the swarm is adapting faster than we anticipated. Our disruptors are losing efficiency at a rate of 15% every minute." Feng's eyes narrowed. "Initiate Protocol Omega. Bring the Mobius drive network online." Across the battlefield, circular portals began to appear, shimmering with otherworldly energy. Allied ships dove through them, reappearing instantaneously at strategic points across the sector. The swarm, for all its adaptive capability, found itself suddenly outmaneuvered at every turn. On the Prometheus's bridge, Zixtara watched in awe as humanity's true military might was finally unveiled. Ships jumped in and out of existence, striking with pinpoint accuracy before disappearing again. Energy weapons she had never seen before tore through swarm bio-armor like paper. And through it all, Admiral Feng stood calm at the center, orchestrating the battle with the precision of a master conductor. Hours passed, the tide of battle ebbing and flowing. The Allied forces suffered losses, but for every ship they lost, dozens of swarm vessels were destroyed. Slowly but surely, the invading force was being whittled down. As the battle entered its final stages, a massive swarm mothership emerged from FTL at the edge of the system. Its size dwarfed even the largest Allied battleships, and its appearance sent a wave of dread through the fleet. Admiral Feng's expression hardened. "So, the Queen herself has decided to join us. Prometheus, prepare the Nova Cannon. All ships, clear a path to the mothership. It's time to end this." The Allied fleet parted like a curtain, revealing the Prometheus in all its glory. At the bow of the ship, panels slid away, exposing a weapon of terrifying proportions. Energy began to coalesce at its tip, drawing power from what seemed to be the very fabric of space-time itself. "Nova Cannon at 80% charge," an officer reported. 90%, 95%. The swarm mothership, sensing the threat, began to turn, attempting to retreat back into FTL, but it was too late. "Fire," Feng commanded, her voice barely above a whisper. A beam of pure, blinding energy erupted from the Prometheus, crossing the vast distance to the mothership in an instant. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a silent flash that outshone the stars themselves, the swarm vessel simply ceased to exist. Where it had been, a miniature sun now burned, its shockwave rippling out to consume the remaining swarm ships. As quickly as it had begun, the battle was over. The remaining swarm vessels, cut off from their queen, and the hive mind, fell into disarray. Some fled, jumping blindly into FTL. Others simply went inert, drifting lifelessly in space. On the Prometheus's bridge, a stunned silence fell. It was broken by the sound of Zixtara's voice, filled with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "By all that is sacred," she breathed, "what have you done?" Admiral Feng turned to face the High Counselor, her expression grave. "What was necessary, Counselor? We've given the galaxy a fighting chance, but this was just one battle. The war is far from over." As the reality of their victory sank in, cheers began to erupt across the Allied fleet. But on the Prometheus bridge, the mood remained somber. They had won, yes, but at a cost. And the power they had unleashed, it would change the face of warfare forever. Admiral Feng gazed out at the battlefield, littered with the debris of friend and foe alike. She knew that this victory would echo across the galaxy, a clear message to both the swarm and any other threats lurking in the dark between the stars. Humanity was here, and they were a force to be reckoned with. The Battle of Nexus Prime was over. But as reports of the confrontation spread, as news of humanity's awesome power reached every corner of the galaxy, a new chapter in cosmic history was just beginning. For better or worse, the age of human ascendancy had dawned. And somewhere out in the void, the remnants of the swarm retreated, nursing their wounds and adapting. They would return, stronger and more terrifying than ever. But for now, for this moment, the galaxy breathed a collective sigh of relief. The first great test of the United Galaxy Alliance had been passed, but greater challenges lay ahead, and the true nature of humanity's role in this new galactic order was yet to be fully revealed. Aftermath and reflection. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, once a symbol of unchallenged authority, now buzzed with a nervous energy. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy had gathered for what many were calling the most important session in cosmic history. The events at Nexus Prime had sent shockwaves through the galactic community, and now, 2 standard months later, the full implications were beginning to sink in. High Councillor Zix Tara stood at the center of the chamber, her scales a swirling mix of colors reflecting her tumultuous emotions. Beside her stood Dr. Ellen Tarek, the human diplomat who had become the face of Earth's integration into galactic affairs. The contrast between them was stark. Zix Tara's alien form a reminder of the galaxy's diversity, Tarek's human silhouette now a symbol of unparalleled power. "Order," Zix Tara called, her voice carrying across the chamber. The din subsided, all eyes turning to the unlikely pair at the center. "We are gathered here today to discuss the future of our galaxy in light of recent events. Dr. Tarek, if you would begin." Tarek stepped forward, his expression somber. "Esteemed representatives of the galaxy, I stand before you not in triumph, but in solemn recognition of the challenges that lie ahead. The Battle of Nexus Prime was a victory, yes, but it was also a revelation of the true nature of the swarm threat, of the potential for unity among our diverse species, and," he paused, his gaze sweeping the room, "of the power that humanity brings to bear in this new age." A murmur rippled through the chamber. General Thorak, his scales still bearing the scars of the recent battle, growled from his seat. "Power. You unleashed a weapon that created a star. Such power is beyond comprehension, beyond control." Tarek nodded, acknowledging the concern. The Nova Cannon is indeed a weapon of immense destructive capability, but it is also a testament to what we can achieve when we push the boundaries of science and technology. It is not a tool of conquest, but a shield against extinction. Ambassador Krell's crystalline form pulsed rapidly. "But who will wield this shield, Dr. Tarek? Who decides when such power should be unleashed?" "That," Tarek replied, "is precisely why we are here. The United Galaxy Alliance was formed out of necessity, but it now stands as an opportunity, a chance to reshape galactic governance for the betterment of all." He gestured, and a holographic display sprang to life, showing the current state of the galaxy. Swirls of red indicated swarm-controlled space, significantly reduced since Nexus Prime, but still a looming threat. "The swarm is wounded, but not defeated," Tarek continued. "Our victory has bought us time, but we must use it wisely. Earth proposes a new structure for the Alliance, one that distributes power and responsibility among all member species." As Tarek outlined the proposal, the chamber alternated between stunned silence and heated debate. The plan was ambitious, a council where each species had equal representation, joint research initiatives to share and advance technology, a unified defense force drawing from all member worlds. But what guarantees do we have? A reptilian representative hissed, that Earth won't simply dominate this new order. Your technology, your weapons, they far surpass anything we possess. Zixtara stepped forward at this, her voice firm. I have seen humanity's power firsthand. I have also seen their restraint. The Battle of Nexus Prime could have been won through sheer force, but instead, Admiral Feng coordinated a strategy that minimized casualties on both sides. She turned to face the chamber, her scales settling into a resolute blue. Yes, humanity's emergence has changed the balance of power, but I believe has changed it for the better. For too long, we have been reactionary, squabbling among ourselves, while threats like the swarm grew unchecked. Now, we have a chance to be proactive, to shape our destiny as a united galaxy. The debate raged for hours, concerns raised and addressed, proposals modified and refined. Through it all, Tarek stood as a calm presence, answering questions with patience and candor. It became clear to many that this was not a human dictating terms, but a genuine effort at forging a new path forward. As the session neared its end, a quiet fell over the chamber. The weight of the decision before them pressed down on every representative. It was Ambassador Elara who finally broke the silence, her luminous form glowing softly as she spoke. We stand at a crossroads, she said, her voice melodious yet tinged with gravity. The old ways have failed us. The swarm very nearly spelled the end of all we hold dear. But in our darkest hour, when we sought to coerce them into action, humanity instead offered us partnership. They could have conquered. Instead, they chose to unite. She floated to the center of the chamber, her light casting moving shadows across the assembled faces. I say we grasp this opportunity. Let us forge this new alliance, not out of fear of human power, but out of hope for what we can achieve together. One by one, representatives stood or signaled their assent. There were still doubts, still concerns to be addressed, but the tide of history was clear. The United Galaxy Alliance would move forward, with Earth as a partner, not an overlord. As the session adjourned, Zixtara found herself standing next to Tarek, both gazing out a viewport at the star-studded expanse of space. A new era begins, Zixtara mused, her voice low. But I can't help but wonder, Dr. Tarek, what challenges lie ahead? Surely the swarm is not the only threat out there. Tarek's expression grew somber. No, High Counselor, it is not. There are darker things lurking between the stars, ancient powers and cosmic horrors that we've only glimpsed in our explorations. The swarm was but the first test of our unity. He turned to face her, his eyes reflecting the starlight. That's why this alliance is so crucial. Humanity has strength, yes, but we are young in the cosmic scale. Your species, all the species out there, have wisdom and perspectives we lack. Together, we can face whatever the universe throws at us. Zixtara nodded slowly. And what of Earth, Dr. Tarek? How has this changed your people? Tarek smiled, a mix of pride and melancholy in his expression. We have awoken from our long isolation, Counselor. There is excitement, yes, but also trepidation. We know that with great power comes great responsibility. The choices we make now will echo through history. As they stood there, a ship passed by the viewport, one of the new joint-designed vessels, its hull bearing the emblems of multiple worlds. It was a physical representation of the changes sweeping the galaxy, a symbol of the new order taking shape. The road ahead will not be easy, Tarek said softly. There will be conflicts, misunderstandings, perhaps even battles yet to be fought. But for the first time in galactic history, we face the future truly united. Zixtara's scales shimmered with a mix of emotions, hope, anxiety, determination. Then let us face it together, Dr. Tarek, for the sake of all our peoples, for all the sentient beings who call this galaxy home. As they turned back to rejoin the dispersing representatives, both human and alien knew that this was just the beginning. The Battle of Nexus Prime had been won, the United Galaxy Alliance had been forged, but the greatest challenges and the greatest opportunities still lay ahead. Out in the vast expanse of space, countless worlds turned, their inhabitants unaware of the monumental changes taking place. But soon the news would spread. A new age had dawned. Humanity had emerged on the galactic stage not as conquerors, but as partners. And together with the myriad species of the cosmos, they would chart a course into an uncertain but hopeful future. The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, as if in anticipation of the great journey yet to come. For in the face of cosmic threats and untold wonders, the united species of the galaxy stood ready. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it as one. The end of one chapter, the beginning of a greater story.